And hopefully the day is going to get a lot sunnier with the possibility of the release of another 10,000 pages regarding the Epstein case, right? So what am I talking about? Well, for those that don't know, there's a lot of disinfo out there in the mainstream and even the alternative media saying hundreds of new names have been told and blah, blah, blah. Not really. A lot of the stuff that was in that 2,000 page plus wasn't 2,000 documents. It was a bunch of documents that equaled 2,000 plus pages. Okay, we've shown you a lot of them. And a lot of that stuff was already out there. In other words, the Prince Andrew stuff was all over the place. It's only now that he's had to respond en masse since the initial allegations and stories that broke with the Daily Mail that Virginia Roberts sold. Okay, and we've been critical of her when we've had to be critical of her, but at the same time, 30 plus different women in the Palm Beach case alone, and this one being a different case in New York, the entire debacle surrounding it, et cetera, et cetera. However, what we are talking about is another 10,000 pages of information from the Roberts versus Ghislaine Maxwell case. And how Ghislaine Maxwell's not currently in jail, I don't know. How our intelligence apparatus can act like they don't know where she is. But the New York Post, for instance, can get photographs of her staged by one of her friends and lawyers. A lot of this isn't adding up, right? Now, we know that there seem to be more investigations going on, according to Jeffrey Berman, the person who brought the indictment against Epstein in New York. I gave you my inside evidence of that aviation company, Jet Ready, flyjetready.com, being raided by the FBI 2-3 weeks back. And Jeffrey Gollump and a couple other executives were being looked at, but it appears that they were cleared. And it also appears as though the main goal of that FBI investigation was somehow to tie Trump financially to Epstein more than he already has been tied financially to Epstein. So the other allegation is hundreds of names. Now, again, hundreds of names. This seems to be from the lawyers. This seems to be from Guthrie herself. Okay. So this is actually really interesting because what did we get last time? We got Governor Bill Richardson. We got George Mitchell. We got Dubin. Those guys. Those were names that weren't really out there, at least as confirmed to alleged to have been with younger girls, right? So with this coming out, I mean, number one, God, how am I going to have the time to go through all those documents? We know that even later today, coming up, I'm going to go through that 121 page report on World Trade Center 7 that was just released yesterday, that there's a complete media blackout on. I'm sure either the debunkers will remain completely silent on that, or they'll try to pick it apart with their own alternative facts. But from what I've seen of it, and I skipped towards the end to read more of it, basically on what they were talking about, the failures of the columns of the building, and a lot of the computer models and diagrams and simulations that NIST had put together, and then picking them apart one by one. 81 watching, 18 likes. Can we get some more? Can we reverse that? Can we thumbs this up? So now getting back to Epstein, another huge concern is with that 2,000 page data dump, we did get more insight into Sarah Palin, Leslie Groff, Nadia Marcinkova, Adriana Ross. There are other people out there, Natalia Malyshev, and so forth. We know from the indictment, 3 of his employees were working with them in that indictment. But which 3? We also heard about Tony Figueroa procuring girls for him, and that was an ex-boyfriend of Virginia Roberts, right? Ronaldo Rizzo is another name that's in there. So more names have come out on this lower level. If you've been with me through some of these document data dumps, you'll know that, people that worked as maids, as servants, as pilots even though they were deposed, originally they signed non-disclosure agreements. They were told if they were approached by law enforcement to contact Epstein's lawyers right away, et cetera, et cetera. And in the court documents, they are referred to as the Enterprise, okay? And this is the real indictment. We could go on and on about the civil case and the actual names being named, but in the actual indictment, they call it the Enterprise. So, the other thing to look at here is that Bradley Edwards, for instance, who's the lawyer for Roberts and some of the other ones who originally took the case on, okay? Let's go back in time here. Bradley Roberts takes the case on with others. He's attacked by Epstein and his lawyers and tried to be discredited. He's actually sued by Epstein. They attempt to get him disbarred. Uh-oh, is this not going? Whoa, we got kicked off for a second there. Hopefully we're back. Goodness, I haven't had that happen yet. So, getting back to where we were at. Bradley Edwards. I guess I'm gonna have to run it back a little ways. Bradley Edwards, he's representing some of the initial victims, including Roberts. Now remember, Roberts is also the source of the information that Epstein gets kicked out of his club because of him procuring her. Basically, Roberts' father works for Donald Trump. He learns of his daughter basically being, I don't want to use the term pimped, molested by Epstein and Maxwell, et cetera, and that's where the falling out happens. That was where that information comes from. Now, at the same instance, you have to take into account, she also says that Trump rode on his plane. A lot of people wanted to deny that, right? She doesn't say he did anything bad on his plane, but he rode on it, and I kept saying that was the case, and at the very least, that Epstein and Maxwell had actually rode on Trump's plane. Come on, they did fall into the same social circle. However, Edwards, this lawyer, did contact Trump. That's another thing to put into perspective. During this whole thing, Trump was one of the only people to call him back and give him information one way or the other. So I think that's something very important to take into account and something that has to be looked at. So anyway, like I said, Bradley Edwards gets attacked by Epstein, his attorneys, Dershowitz in particular, and then he has to basically sue them back, countersue. Which he does. And this process takes almost a decade before it actually gets into court. The day they start picking the jury, what happens? Epstein settles. You can look into it. In fact, the entire press conference of Bradley Edwards and his lawyer, I think it's Jack Scarola, it's like 22 minutes long. It's online. You have to see it to believe it. They're standing in front of literally tens of thousands of documents in boxes, okay, with many of the victims. The media totally didn't cover that. They refused to cover it. And this is all the way back in either, I want to say November or December of last year, right? So right now, with everything going on and Edwards saying this is going to happen, it could be absolutely huge for the case. We're going to keep our eye on it. Some people sent me, I got a picture of Prince Andrew at some masquerade ball with a topless woman. That shouldn't be a shock to anybody. He's in one of his suits. People send me some good stuff, some good tips. Not everything's great, but I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys. I'm coming to a crossroads here. So I am encouraging you all to please hit that like button, share this on social media. How we doing, brother? Share this on social media, and if you can, I've got a GoFundMe. That's how I support myself. That's how I do this 7 days a week, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. And like I said, we're going to be going through that brand new World Trade Center 7 report later on this evening. So I hope to see you there. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip.